What's up everyone, welcome to Aussie Talks Wrestling, and in today's video we are going to be discussing the top contenders for who could win both the men's and the women's Royal Rumble matches in 2026. I'm not going to be talking through each and every potential winner, as otherwise we'll be here all day and all night, so what I'm going to do is discuss 5 top potential winners from both divisions. With that in mind, starting with the women's side of things, we have Bianca Belair. Now, she's actually been inactive since WrestleMania 41, where she had that incredible triple threat match with Rhea Ripley and Io Sky, where she actually injured her knuckle. Now, this seemed to be a relatively minor injury at the time, but it's proven to be a lot more complex than we originally thought, because she hasn't actually wrestled since then, and I believe the last time she was on WWE television was when she was the special guest referee in the match between Jade Cargill and Naomi back in July last year at WWE Evolution. So we don't know if she's medically cleared to compete, but if she is, she's a huge star. She's a former winner, of course, winning the Royal Rumble back in 2021 and going on to win the SmackDown Women's Championship against Sasha Banks at WrestleMania 37. And going back to when she was last active in WWE, she's really been kept away from the world title scene for quite a while, which I think was done on purpose to avoid overexposure, because she had been in the world title scene for quite a while. She had a rapid rise on the main roster, a few world title reigns, won the Royal Rumble match, so I think they strategically tried to keep her away from the world titles for a while. She spent a lot of time in the tag team division, but now I think would be a great time for her to come back triumphantly and potentially win the Royal Rumble. There's a ready-made storyline for her there with Jade Cargill, who is of course the current WWE Women's Champion, but on the flip side, you don't really need her to win the Royal Rumble to go into that storyline. So it's not necessarily a reason for her to win the match, but it would make sense if that's the route they choose to go down. Next up, we have Judgment Day's Liv Morgan, who returned from a 6-month injury back at Survivor Series in November last year to help Dominic Mysterio regain the Intercontinental title against John Cena. Now, I think Liv is a really strong contender this year. She's consistently getting to the latter stages of the Women's Royal Rumble matches, but she's never actually won it yet. And there are a smaller pool of women to choose from in terms of winning the Royal Rumble match. We've had Charlotte Flair win it twice now. Nobody else has won it twice, but I think eventually some other women will win it twice. Liv Morgan is the biggest women's star on the roster that hasn't yet won the Royal Rumble. And of course, we have to consider that her stablemates, Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez, are also going to be in the Royal Rumble match. However, this could go both ways. Liv is clearly trying to run the Judgment Day and be their leader, which I think is going to build some tension and friction between everyone, but I think it's a bit too early to break up the entire faction themselves. I think Finn might get ousted from there soon, but I think the women are going to carry on as they are for a while. So I think ultimately having Roxanne and Raquel in the match with her is going to prove to be an advantage. Rhea Ripley has to be considered as a potential winner. She won the Royal Rumble back in 2023 and is easily the biggest women's star on the roster. The pops that she gets every time that her music plays is fantastic, and they're just on another level compared to the other women on the roster. Personally, I don't think Rhea is going to win, but we have to consider her just being a huge star. The reason I don't think she's going to win is because I'm predicting she's going to go into WrestleMania having a feud with her current tag team partner, Io Sky. This is because despite them being besties right now, Rhea Ripley is still never beaten Io in a singles one-on-one match, and we know that that is eating away at Rhea Ripley. The Kabuki Warriors are of course also playing on the fact that Rhea is going to turn her back on Io Sky. I think of the two of them, it's going to be Rhea that turns heel, simply because of the reasons I just outlined. She's never beaten Io. It's going to be eating her up inside that she's never beaten Io. So I think the wheels are going to fall off of that tag team as soon as they lose the tag team championships, but I don't really think this is going to involve the Royal Rumble in any sense. So for those reasons, I don't think Rhea's going to win the Royal Rumble. She of course has to be considered, but I don't think that's the direction that WWE are going to go down. I think ultimately they're going to lose the tag team championships, and then Rhea will turn on Io, which will lead into their feud going into WrestleMania, which absolutely doesn't need a title. Asuka, another long-term big star in the women's division, she also has to be considered. She won the first ever Women's Royal Rumble match back in 2018. Now this is particularly interesting this year because Kairi Sane, on the most recent episode of Raw at the time of me filming this, has promised to help Asuka win the Royal Rumble match. This is because Asuka has blamed Kairi completely for them losing the women's tag team championships. So Kairi is going to be going all out to try and help her tag team partner win the Women's Royal Rumble match. Now at some point I think the Kabuki Warriors are going to implode. I think Kairi is going to have taken too much abuse from Asuka and she's going to turn on her, making Kairi a massive babyface. And there is a potential for that to happen in the Royal Rumble match match itself. It might be that Kairi is trying her best to help Asuka, but something goes wrong, there's a mistake that gets made, Asuka is putting her on blast, screaming in her face, and Kairi has just had enough of it, and maybe even helps to eliminate Asuka, which then sets up their feud, which I imagine would lead into WrestleMania as well. That's another potential strong singles match for the women that doesn't need a championship. Then we have Tiffy time, Tiffany Stratton, who's been out of action since November when she lost her WWE Women's Championship to Jade Cargill in what was effectively a squash match at Saturday night's main event. She has been dealing with an injury, and I'm not going to lie, I haven't been following up on that, so I'm not sure what the current status of her injury is, but it could be that she makes a big return at the Royal Rumble, and it would make perfect sense for her to go straight back for Jade Cargill to try and regain that championship. WWE clearly sees a lot in Tiffany Stratton. I think she's very, very talented. I know if some people thought that her championship reign was a bit stale, and whilst I don't think it was perfect, I don't really think it was her fault. The booking didn't really help with kind of going round in circles with the Nia Jax feud. That certainly didn't help proceedings. But there are two aspects to consider here with Tiffany winning the Rumble. She could, of course, go straight back for Jade and try and regain the WWE Women's Championship. But on the flip side of it, she also has plenty of motivation to choose Stephanie Vaquer if she is still the Women's World Champion. Because it was Stephanie Vaquer that beat Tiffany Stratton at Crown Jewel for the Women's Crown Jewel Championship. And this is what ended Tiffany's month-long undefeated streak and gave her her first loss as the WWE Women's Champion in a singles match. And she could easily place the blame on Stephanie for her lack of momentum, which ultimately led her to losing the WWE Women's Championship against Jade Cargill. So it would be an interesting one if Tiffany does win, because she's got good storylines and good motivation for picking both Women's World Champions. If I was going to make a prediction now, I would say that Liv Morgan is going to win the Women's Royal Rumble match in 2026. I just feel like it's the time. It's been long enough for her now to have not won it. She's come close time and time again. I think she's the biggest star on the roster that hasn't won the Women's Rumble yet. She'll have help from her stablemates in the Judgment Day, and I think some of the other major stars in the division don't need the Royal Rumble to be able to set up their WrestleMania feuds. Moving over to the Men's Royal Rumble match, we've got to discuss Bron Breakker, who at the time of me filming this video is still suspended. By the time I post it, his suspension may well have been lifted. I'm completely expecting him to be in the Royal Rumble match. I'll be very, very surprised if his suspension carries on through that event. And what is there to say about Bron Breakker? It's only a matter of time before he becomes a world champion. I think he's ready to be world champion. I know it frustrated a lot of people that he didn't beat CM Punk for the World Heavyweight Championship a few weeks ago on Raw, but it might be that they're holding out for a big WrestleMania moment to crown him as champion. We know that WWE likes to make big WrestleMania moments, so it might be that they want Bron Breakker to win his first ever World Championship after WrestleMania, because I think we can all see Bron becoming a multiple-time world champion and one of the pillars of the company going forward. He's a force of nature in the ring. When that man runs ropes, it's freaking terrifying, even sitting on the sofa looking at it on a TV screen. I cannot believe how fast that guy moves. If you got hit by his spear at full pelt at that speed, then I think he'd be lying on the floor for a week clutching his stomach. He can cut strong promos. He's got Paul Heyman by his side. He's leading the vision. I think this guy just needs to win the World Championship soon, and the Royal Rumble would be a great way to set him on that path. Next up is, of course, the Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns. He won the Royal Rumble back in 2015. That was a completely different character. The crowd hated it. They even brought The Rock out to try and smooth things over, and that didn't work. But we have to consider Roman Reigns, considering he's such a huge star. There has been speculation of them running Roman Reigns against CM Punk at WrestleMania 42, which I think would be a fantastic feud, something they have been planting the seeds for over the last couple of years, with Punk, of course, joining Roman's team at War Games to help them win a couple of years ago. And then we had the whole major triple threat match at WrestleMania last year between Roman, Seth, and Punk, with Heyman betraying both Roman Reigns and CM Punk in favour of Seth Rollins. He has to be considered just because of the level of star he is. It's going to take a lot to eliminate Roman Reigns from the Royal Rumble, but I personally don't think he's going to win it this year. There has also been speculation of them running Roman versus Cody 3 at WrestleMania, which is a match I'd like to see, but if they're going to do that, I really would prefer they do it without the World Championship. I don't think the match needs another championship. It would be the third match in the trilogy to really determine who's the better man. You don't need the title. Cody doesn't have the world title anymore either. He's just lost it to Drew McIntyre, and I don't want them to hot potato it and send it straight back to Cody. I like Cody, but I'm really pleased that Drew McIntyre has won the WWE Championship, and I really hope he gets a long reign, as it's well deserved. Then we have Gunther, who's going to be pulling double duty at the Royal Rumble, as he's going to be facing AJ Styles earlier in the night, before later on in the evening competing in the Men's Royal Rumble match. After he retired John Cena by making him tap out back in Washington DC in December at Saturday night's main event, I was very much of the point of view that Gunther should not be put in the Royal Rumble match or the Elimination Chamber match unless he's going to win them. However, I think it has been a shrewd piece of booking from WWE here by putting him in this match against AJ Styles on the same night, because it means that he can feasibly go into the men's Rumble match not being 100%. Particularly as the match between him and AJ actually has Styles' career on the line. So it's going to be a really hard-hitting match. AJ is literally fighting for his professional career, which I do think he'll win, but I think it's going to mean that Gunther goes into the Royal Rumble match much less than 100%. I think it'd be even better if he goes in early in the match, because in kayfabe it's going to protect him. It means there's a strong reason for him not winning the Royal Rumble. We don't yet know if AJ Styles is going to be in the Rumble match. I suppose we can't know that because we don't know if AJ is going to be retired or not by the time that match happens. So it would be quite surprising if he does show up, but you never know. It might be a case that AJ wins his match, saves his career, Gunther enters the Royal Rumble later on, and then AJ gets one of the late spots to jump in the Rumble match, and maybe AJ eliminates Gunther as well. So as much as Gunther is a strong contender, I don't think he's going to win, and I think the way that they've booked this is a very clever way to explain to us why he's not going to win. Now let's talk about the huge elephant in the room, that is Chris Jericho. He has been gone from WWE for years. His last appearance was in 2018. He then has, of course, gone off to AEW, where he has been wrestling since 2019, and there's been a lot of speculation in recent weeks and months about him coming back to WWE for one final run and presumably retiring from professional wrestling. Being totally honest, I don't watch AEW, I don't follow it. I haven't really got anything against AEW as a company or a brand. I don't buy into this whole tribal thing between AEW fans and WWE fans. At the end of the day, it's good for there to be healthy competition. I think as a WWE fan, it's clear to me that WWE performs better when they have healthy competition, whether that be internally between their own brands, as we've seen in the past during the Ruthless Aggression era, or when they've got actual competition like WCW or AEW, but just on a lower level. I think it would be awesome for Jericho to return at this Royal Rumble. It would make for an amazing moment. Everyone would be really happy to see him come back. It'd be interesting to see what theme he uses as well, whether he comes back to his classic Break the Walls Down or whether he comes out with Judas. Because as much as I don't really follow AEW, I know that that's a big song and everyone likes singing that as he makes his entrance out into the arena. So if he does return, I think Y2J will go deep in the match, but I don't ultimately see him winning the Royal Rumble. I think it'll be a big match. They'll make him look strong, but then he'll be eliminated by someone, which will presumably lead into Jericho's feud going into WrestleMania. Because I don't think you bring back a Chris Jericho type star and then don't put them on the WrestleMania card. And I think they'd start to pave the road for that match at the Royal Rumble. And finally we have Sami Zayn. Now again, at the time of me recording this video, he's actually scheduled to compete in the Fatal 4-Way match to determine Drew McIntyre's opponent for the undisputed WWE Championship at the Royal Rumble. But either way, I feel that Sami is going to play a huge role in this show, particularly with it being in Saudi Arabia. So he's either going to be challenging Drew for that championship up there, or he's going to be in the men's Royal Rumble match. If he wins that Fatal 4-Way and faces Drew, I think he loses, because I just don't see them giving Sami the title this quickly after Drew's just won it and doing it in front of a Saudi crowd just for a cheap pop, especially as Sami has always struggled to become world champion. He's vowed to become a world champion in 2026. He cut an impassioned promo about this recently, and it would be really anticlimactic if he just goes on to do it almost straight away. However, if he's in the Royal Rumble match, I think he's got a really, really strong chance of winning. Because of that storyline I just mentioned, where he wants to be world champion finally, he talked about how when he was at John Cena's retirement match, and they talked about Cena being a 17-time world champion, how his son looked at him and said, "Daddy, how many world championships have you won?" That clearly was very poignant to him and struck a chord with him and has really lit that fire in him to become a world champion. Combine that with the fact he's in front of the Saudi Arabian crowd that are going to go absolutely crazy for him, I think we have to consider Sami Zayn as a credible contender to win the men's Royal Rumble this year. So with all of that being said, I'm going to say my final prediction for the men's Royal Rumble match in 2026 is going to be Bron Breakker. Whilst some of the other contenders I've discussed have got credible reasons for winning the Rumble, for me they've also got clear reasons to not win the Rumble, and they've got other storylines and feuds that they can move on into. Whereas for Bron Breakker, I just think strap the rocket to him, get him to win the Royal Rumble, and let's give him that World Championship win at WrestleMania. But forget my opinions, who do you think is going to win the Royal Rumble, whether it be the men's or the women's? Do you think it's going to be any of the contenders that I discussed in today's video, or do you think it's going to be someone else? There are plenty of other people in both the men's and the women's roster that could potentially win the Royal Rumble, so please let me know down below who you think is going to win these matches and why. Thank you for watching this video. I really hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel or like the video down below. And if you have enjoyed this content, please do check out my weekly video series, This Week in WWE, What Mattered, where I discuss what happened in the previous week on Raw and SmackDown, but I only really go through the things that I think really mattered in WWE that week. So it's not a breakdown of everything that happened on both shows. It's just from my perspective discussing the real big things that mattered. So it might be that you haven't got the time to watch Raw and SmackDown every week. It might be you just kind of want to keep your finger on the pulse, particularly as we're now getting into Royal Rumble season and the road to WrestleMania. I think this is the series for you. Thank you once again for watching. I hope to see you again soon in a future video. Please let me know if you've got any other video ideas for me to do in the future, and I'll see you all soon.